Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We do hope you're keeping very, very safe and well. Sorry, we've waited 24 hours for this. I can tell you what a show we have got in store. If you're listening to the show for the first time, and where have you been? Of course, we're on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're on Audio Boom, we're across a range of different audio platforms. We're, of course, on Twitter at Last Word on Spurs. We're on Facebook and Instagram too. And as Richard Beard says on the screen there, loud and clear, proudly, it is here we go time. We are here discussing Tottenham Hotspur winning at Manchester City. And I can tell you that I'm sure none of us saw this one coming. As much as Tottenham are the bane of my lives, they give you moments like that, which was simply quite incredible. I've got three great returning guests joining me on the Last One on Spurs. First up, normally he'd be telling me to finish up early, the cricket, or we've got some other form of aqua sports that's coming on. But I can tell you tonight, this man won't be delaying us at all. We've got the wonderful Jason McGovern in the house. 17 major trophies, as he says on his screen name there. Jace, how are you? Can you believe it?
Not too bad, mate. And we can talk all the way up to Burnley now. No problem. No golf, no cricket, no volcanic diving, nothing, mate. It's fantastic.
It is.
No, it was a great evening. And just a special shout out for all those away fans like Chrissy Cowling. I know a guy, Gary, comes down from Edinburgh for every game. I know Bo, who comes over from Ireland every game. And when they come over and spend the expense and the time they do, and we know Chris goes to Pacos and Mura and places like that, by God, do they deserve that day yesterday. And I'm happier for them almost than the team, because it's yesterday was what it's about.
Yeah. Was honestly quite incredible, and you can tell by this smile, this hasn't left my mouth since the kickoff has been closed. And it's, like I say, been quite an incredible last 24 hours. I don't know how many times I've watched the rerun back just on Match of the Day, let alone the goals. I tell you what, just been absolutely incredible. Delighted to also have back on the show. She's never too shy to give her opinions, and finally at some point there's got to be a positive show for her. So we've been waiting for this. We've got the brilliant Talia Coren back on Last Word on Spurs. Talia, lovely to have you back on. Can you believe this?
I am very excited to be back, and what a game to have to review. I mean, I'm excited. I think I'm probably 90% of people watching were hoping for the best but expecting the worst. I think that's what I put before the game. We are their bogey team, but I thought, you know what, we've lost a few in a row. We're going to get absolutely done. And I think watching that, there were just glimpses of just pure happiness. I'm just so happy.
Yeah.
I'm very happy, and I think we've got a lot to cover. And I'm
absolutely excited. Happiness at the Etihad. Who would have thought it? Who would have thought it? Bearing in mind, I know obviously many say, at the moment that City, for them Spurs are their bogey team, but I think anyone in their wildest dreams, having watched the last 180 plus minutes of Spurs, may not have seen that coming. So what an unbelievable result. And also pleased to finally get this man back on Last Word on Spurs. He was due to come on during the mid-start to the season, but unfortunately, I think the snow hit us, Rob, for Burnley. But I tell you what, what a game to come on for. We've got the brilliant Tottenham Hotspur reporter for Football London, Rob Guesty, joining us. Rob, how are you? Lovely to have you here.
Very well, thank you. Long time since I've been on. I think the last time I was on, it was a 0-0 draw at Watford, Gedson Fernandez's debut. But I mean, what a game to pick tonight to come on. Plenty to discuss, and hopefully Spurs can just kick on from here, because what a night at the Etihad.
Yeah, unbelievable. Rob, we'll start with you, because I must say, Spurs, to go and win that City in that style, they were absolutely lethal on the attack, but also I just thought, tactically wise, we were so disciplined, and I don't think anybody could come away from that game, Spurs fans or any other opposition fans, and say that we didn't thoroughly deserve that. It was such a wonderful performance from Tottenham. What did you make of it?
It was a thoroughly deserved win, to be honest. Spurs were brilliant from the very first minute, and saying to a few people in the press box before the game that I did fancy Spurs to get something from the game. It was really a bit of a free hit. I think everyone was expecting City to win, given they'd won 14 of the last 15 in the Premier League. I think 19 from 21 in all competitions. Spurs came into the game on the back of 3 successive Premier League defeats. So it was really one of these where nothing to lose. And given that Antonio Conte finally had a full week on the training pitch with his team, I thought, they'd get something from the game. And to be honest, I didn't expect it to go that well. They were absolutely outstanding from the very first minute. Every single player on there last night played the part. Harry Kane, Dejan Kulusevski, Son Heung-min, Christian Romero, everyone. I thought they were just so good. And you just want this performance just to carry on now.
Yeah, no, it was honestly remarkable. And Jay's coming around here. I saw you like this one as well. That City, they just can't handle it in North London, can they? You know, Spurs taking 6 points off them, and Arsenal pressing them really hard for the first half of one game.
Yeah, it was. I think it was just for me. You know, after a difficult week for the club with all the coverage of Conte's interviews and people saying, you know, it's a weaker squad now. I think what you saw was for me why the squad is stronger despite being numerically down, because he had 2 players that he could start the game with rather than 4 that he couldn't. And he had 2 players, more importantly, that could play 90 minutes rather than having to be subbed off after 65. And that's made a huge difference. And the quality that Bentancur had at times, and the ball over the top for the last goal rather than a safe sideways pass. And then Kulusevski, who people have already written off for us as too slow to be in, really showed that coolness and composure throughout the game with his goal, with the cross for the disallowed goal, with his instant bit of crossing for the winning goal. And those 2 players, I thought Højbjerg coming back into the team had a massive game for us as well, despite all the crap that he's had to put up with. Eric Dyer returning, you know, there was a lot of criticised players that stood up last night, but the performance of that man up front was just immense, wasn't it? But you know, you can't go to Manchester City and have any passengers on your team. That's the thing. But I thought second half, particularly the longer the game went, what was nice to see was that we weren't just camped in our box. So that having gone 2-1 up, we almost went 3-1 up. We took confidence from that, scored a disallowed goal, which could have gone either way, still going forward at the end. And to score in, you know, when you get to 2-2, particularly away to a game like that, in the manner that you've gone to 2-2 with a last-minute penalty, to still have that bit of belief, to get in their half, knock the ball around, bit of composure, and we score a really, really good goal, that last goal. 14, 15 passes, lots of players involved, lots of good movement. And to do that at Man City, when the natural thing, and we've said it before, haven't we, our heads go down at crucial times, that was the polar opposite. And I think, why can't we do this at Chelsea? Why can't we show this mentality at Chelsea that we actually show at Manchester City? I mean, there's a couple of games in recent where we've been 2-0 down at Manchester City and come back for 2-2s and things. So why can we do it there, but not against Chelsea? It's such a shame we can't do it there. But no, full credit to every single person that took part in that last night.
Yeah, I think, like you said there, Jace, you know, when you go to City, you have to be in a situation where every player needs to go there and give
Absolutely.
a 9 out of 10 performance. And I've got to say, you know, as a whole group of players, that's exactly what we did. And Conte said during the week, we had to be perfect tactically. You know, it's in this pre-match press conference. And to be fair, you know, barring the Lloris, obviously miss save that we'll come on to, I think everybody had like a really, really good game. And you need to have that, of course, in the manner of that City team, the way they're playing at the moment, which is quite incredible. Talia, to come round to you, I mean, what a performance from Harry Kane. Absolutely unreal. Probably, I'd say, one of his best ever in a Spurs shirt, but also just how huge for the top 4 race. Could you look at this weekend, you know, with the likes of course, United winning today. Of course, we've seen Arsenal winning as well over the weekend. Wolves also winning. You feel that is a big, big win for Tottenham. That gives them still an opportunity somehow to still be in this race for the top 4. But also Romero, an absolute rock at the back. We'll come on to that last-ditch amazing tackle, last-ditch slide to keep Spurs alive in this game and to win the game. But overall, penalty aside, what an unbelievable performance from Tottenham.
I just think there's no in between with us, is there? It's literally just all or nothing in every way. And I think last night we were incredible. And like Conte said, we got it bang on and everyone pretty much was on their best form. And that's what we needed to beat the champions, and to do it twice in one season under 2 different managers as well, I think is incredible. And, you know, Kane was just next level last night. I think he was just ridiculous, wasn't he? It was one of the best individual performances anyone has kind of ever seen, as like a number 10 and a number 9. I think they said, you know, as an individual centre forward, it's up there with one of the best people I've ever seen in the Premier League, which I think is outstanding. And he was just everywhere. And, you know, some of those balls were absolutely insane. But look, like you said, everyone played their part for the most part. I think Romero, again, also amazing. I think Dyer made the biggest difference being at the back. I'm sure we'll cover it. But, I fully mean it when I tweeted yesterday being like, if Dyer wasn't there and we had Sanchez, I don't think we'd have won that game. And that says a lot. And that's not, all credit to Dyer. But I think he makes such a big difference at the back. And it was great. But I think, we were just very disciplined, full City out wide, broke up the play. It was just a really bloody good win. But like you said, we had to do it to keep up with the rest of the teams around us. Otherwise, we're falling behind. It wasn't so long ago where we're like 3 games in hand on Arsenal. We'll go second if we win. And we're 8th now. So, we needed to keep that up. Otherwise, there's no point of doing it, kind of, I guess. But I think that it's what we needed. We've got to make Burnley count as well. It's a huge confidence boost. But like we said, it's all or nothing. And, there's no point of being able to be up for it, fight against City, play incredibly well, and then concede a header to Weghorst, whatever his name is, in a few days' time. There are levels, and I think we definitely need consistency. And I know Kane spoke about that in his interview as well. And I think that is our biggest problem. We can turn it on, but it's not consistent. And that is what, as a team, we need to be able to do. But I'm sure we'll cover the ins and outs.
Well, this is it, isn't it? You look at that performance last night and you just think, why can't we do that every game? Why can't we be like that every game? Because if we were, then, Spurs would, who knows where Spurs would be? That's a completely different show, to be honest with you. Which we won't get into tonight for the sake of Jason, who I know will tell us at some point, 2.5 hours down the line, that there's the cricket to come. But all joking aside, Jason will not be doing this for the cricket tonight. Rob, to cut back round to you, Spurs at stoppage time winners, in 3 of their last 4 Premier League away games, and the stoppage time equalising one of those games as well. And quite unbelievably, City, when you look at the stats, 40% of their points have dropped this season, have come against Spurs. Just remarkable. What is it with Spurs and City, and why Spurs seem to always, 9 times out of 10, seem to get an upper hand against them?
Well, I think obviously yesterday there was just a plan in place, and that all came from Conte having that full week on the training pitch. And he said ahead of the game that obviously they were working on a plan. And then he said yesterday in his post-match press conference that it was like the perfect performance. And even like Kane alluded to it in terms of that was part of the plan, especially with like the first goal with the ball, through the middle of them to release Son. Some teams, you just have a bogey team, and for whatever reason, City just cannot get the better of Spurs. They've lost all 4 games at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium so far, not even scored a goal there. And I don't know what it is. I think, like you said, you can't understand why they just don't play like this every week, because they've obviously got it in them. And they proved that last night. And then in terms of, the late goals they've been getting in the away games, that just shows they go right until the end. I think even conceding in like the 93rd minute, 94, when Mahrez scored, you still got a few minutes left. One team's always going to have at least one more chance, and you've just got to take it. And there was that bit of quality there from Kulusevski to put it in. I actually thought he was going to slip in Matt Doherty, who was making the run, but no, did well to hold on to it and put in a brilliant cross. But to be honest, I just can't understand why City can't get the better of Spurs. But who's complaining, to be honest?
Yeah. I think for Talia's sake, probably a good thing it didn't have been Matt Doherty.
Let's not do that. I already had someone be like, today, I bet you're not going to be celebrating because of Matt Doherty. And I was like, what? Like, levels here. No levels today, none.
Absolute levels, honestly. Jason's come over to you. There's just something about that stadium, Jace, that Etihad, that just seems to bring crazy and usually late drama with Spurs. When you think about, the Crouch goal, obviously, of course, Llorente's hit, Mora's header, and then again last night, just what is it about that stadium, Jace, that seems to bring sometimes the best out in Tottenham?
If you think you're right, we just get things. Not every time we go there, but as an away stadium, I can remember early 2000s, we used to go up there and win pretty much every time we went up there. I can remember a great Freddie Canuti goal, Tom Huddleston with that fantastic on the volley. We've probably, since they've been at the Etihad, I wouldn't mind betting we've probably won there more than most teams. If you look at the whole time, including before Pep, there was that astonishing game. Do you remember we actually lost 3-2 there when under Redknapp, when Bale scored a worldie in the top corner. So, there's been some fantastic games there. And, of course, we even won there when we lost. in the Champions League. So that just gives you the right to feeling that this stadium brings us good things. But it was just, like I say, fair credit to every single person, because the shift you have to put in physically and mentally. I thought Emerson Royal got caught a few times. Cess didn't look great, but it's so demanding, that fixture. Really is, when you play them at Liverpool at the way they play it, and the physical and mental effort you've got to do to stick to your jobs. You probably know in the course of the game you're going to get beaten 1v1 a few times. Somebody's going to find a little pocket of space, but it's not to drop the head, it's to minimise those things. And great credit to Conte for drilling that. I think the fact that he said they worked on the Son goal and you score it after 4 minutes, that gives you a great belief that you can get something. So, you can't criticise anyone yesterday. Just fair play to every single person. And even Doherty, as poor old Tal would say, he came on, did his job for the few minutes he was on the pitch for. And that's the main thing. And that's all you can. And even Sanchez comes on. I think he won one header, which in the 2 or 3 minutes he's on for, was still an important header to win. So fair play to everyone yesterday.
Yeah, team performance. And Nathan on screen says, what a beautiful win. Ricky's right. The Etihad does bring luck. The Champions League in 2019 and now this result. Hopefully Harry continues his goal-scoring run. Amen to that. Tal, I thought was a hilarious stat, which I read yesterday. I still think this is mad. When you think about Guardiola and just the level of this manager, he's the only manager to lose to Tottenham under each Maurizio Pochettino, Jose Mourinho, Nuno Espirito Santo, and Antonio Conte. I mean, what is it? What is it with Tottenham and Man City and Pep Guardiola?
I think it's a mental block. You just can't do it, because it's obviously not the tactics, because he's been through 4 managers. It must just be Spurs. We taunt him in his dreams. And I think, he must go to bed at night and just think about the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and Harry Kane. It's clearly Kane. He said yesterday, didn't he? It's just I read, I don't know how true this is, probably isn't. Yeah. I like that they all just sat there and analysed how Kane just ripped them apart.
That came out today. Yeah. There was apparently an inquest into how Kane managed to run that game. Yeah, Kane was playing over point to prove, wasn't he? You just felt that in the summer what was being banded around was City were offering 75 million up front. It almost felt Kane was insulted by the fact that City didn't push for him harder and was almost going to say I'll show you what I'm worth. And that performance yesterday was really trying to prove a point.
Yeah, there is an element of that, of course. I think, anyone wants to be like, hi to someone that wants to buy them, or an employee that's kind of said no to you. You're almost like, this is what you're missing. And what better stage to do it on at the Etihad, full of fans against us. That's his prime. But I think, he is a player that is bigger than himself as well. There was obviously that selfish element where he did want to be his best. But I think, he's been good when others have been rubbish. And, we know that doesn't work for us. And he isn't able to put some of those balls away. And I think everyone played a part in him being able to show off in the way that he did. And I think it really was a collective performance. I know we're often on here and we say, it was good from this guy, good from this guy. But together, there's just no fluidity. There's no, actual kind of ideas. It's very much like a hit and hope a lot of the time. And that's where we go wrong. But I think yesterday was the opposite. Although it was stressful, and a lot of the times when they were pinging the balls everywhere, I was like, oh, this is, not great. We didn't look like we didn't know what we were doing ever. I think there was always that composure.
Controlled, wasn't it? Organised. Everyone knew their jobs.
I think as well that when you look back at the game now without all the emotion and that tension in it, Hugo didn't actually have a lot to do.
No,
that's the surprising thing. What an amazing save that makes up for the thing. But actually, in general time, other than that save and the goal, we didn't actually have a lot to do. Which is, they had 20 odd shots at goal, but a lot from distance and things like that.
You know what's funny though, Tal? To come back around to you, I think Spurs had more shots than City in that game, which again I think points to the fact of just how dominant Spurs were when they did have the ball.
We had more shots on target. I don't think we had more shots, because I was like, we're really clinical in that. They had tons more shots than us, but we had 5 shots on target, and I think they had 4. We scored 3 of those, and they scored 2, and one was a pen. So, I think it is very much numbers didn't tell the true story, because dominance-wise, they had 90% possession at one point. We had 10, and that was the game that it was. But I think, look, we rode the wave, and I think, like you said, everyone knew their jobs. It as much as it was nervous, but that's us being emotional and in the moment, oh my God, we're winning to City in the 70th minute. Can we control it? Can we keep it? That's very like, all the emotions that come with that. But I think that everyone did what they could do. And I think it was a great watch all round. And I think everyone was just so happy.
Yeah, it was so nice to see everyone so happy. It really, really was. Rob, let's come back around to you. I mean, Guardiola after the game said they're a fantastic team, a fantastic manager. And we knew after 3 defeats it would be difficult. And I know he made that point also in the pre-match press conference where he was saying that despite Spurs coming into this game on the back of, 3 defeats, that, he still felt that Spurs were going to pose a threat. And obviously Conte had that horrible record hanging over him. I think it'd be 4 defeats I think for one of the first times in his career, dating years back. And also I think it's 2004 for Tottenham. So, you look at the game itself and the way Spurs played and Conte talked about following a plan. How much does he deserve credit, Rob, for the way he set up the team tactically?
100% deserves so much credit because, like I was saying earlier, it was probably a free hit really for Spurs because everyone's expecting City to win and Spurs to lose. So that full week on the training pitch helped massively because that's one thing Spurs haven't had a lot of this season because there's just so much midweek fixtures. Obviously, had the Europa Conference League in the first part of the season, had Carabao Cup, had Premier League games recently. So there's not been a lot of time. And when they have been on the training pitch, you're looking at, recovery days, video meetings, etc. So you've got to give Conte so much credit. And I was speaking to Eric Dyer after the game, and he was saying basically what their plan was from like goal kicks or whatever was just playing it out from the back. And I think when you're doing that, it does attract City to the ball, and City, given the attacking talents they've got, everyone seems to push up anyway, even the defenders. So that always leaves space in behind. And that's something Spurs could, counter time and time again. The amount of times you saw Kane just drop slightly deeper, get on the ball, play it over the top, around the sides, and then Kulusevski and Son were around there and attacking. So, yeah, you've got to give Conte so much credit for it. I think the game reminded me of when Chelsea won there in his first season when he was manager. I think they won 3-1, and that was part of their 13 successive Premier League wins. And then that was a game where everyone really started to stand up and take notice of this team he was building. And yeah, he's got such a good plan in place yesterday. Hopefully there'll be one in place with Burnley, and then so on and so forth between now and the rest of the season.
Fingers crossed. Jace, coming back over to you. I know you probably hate the stats about XG. Spurs, 1.62 was the second highest of any team against City in the Premier League this season. And again, it kind of points to the fact of just, Conte's attacking patterns, just how on point they were. And, we talk about following a plan. I think, like you touched upon there, it's been a bit of a weird week for Tottenham. Obviously, the comments coming out from Conte, which, it turns out that seemed to have mistranslated from, Sky Talia, essentially. I think it gave us a little bit of cause for concern. Do you think, Jason, when you look at that performance, that will give him hope that if, and it is a big if this, and I appreciate guys watching this and listening to this, is obviously a big if, I'm going to say, if he is back in the summer with the players that he wants, then he does feel this Spurs team have got a genuine opportunity to try and compete where he wants to be as a manager?
I don't want to even answer that in many ways, because I'm a big one for thinking we've had a week where we're talking about, can we back him in the summer? What can we do? There's 15 games until the summer. Part of that backing is where we'll be. Will we be a Champions League club? Will we be a Europa club? Will we be a Checker Trade club? Or will we be a nothing? So until we get those things answered, we don't know what the level of backing is. I don't know a club like Tottenham that can go and spend 300 million in the summer and attract top class players unless they're in the Champions League. So, it's going to be very hard to back him. And even if we are in the Champions League, it's going to be hard to bring in 10, 11 top quality players to back him. So let's get these 15 games done first, and let's not get too high when we win. Let's not get too low when we lose. Last week I heard people saying, well, if you can't beat Southampton at home and you can't beat Wolves at home, you can't get top 4. Manchester United are 4th, having lost at home to Southampton and at home to Wolves. Yeah. So, sometimes you've got to look at it and don't get too high and don't get too low, and just keep level and think the only thing we should be focused on at the moment is win the next game.
Yeah.
And so it's Burnley is next. We don't look at it and think how many points can we get in the next 6 games because suspensions come and injuries come and the form of opposition changes. Just try and win the next game and try and do that 15 times. And then we'll know where we are in the summer. And then let's start to worry about the summer. But if you worry about it too early and lose focus on the here and now, you'll be in big trouble. So just concentrate on Burnley, and that should be the only discussion. And that's the thing to take from that game. Because as I said earlier, we had a week where he was told, where we kept hearing he wasn't backed, and yet he started 2 players that came in from that transfer window. And there's no way Ndombele or Lo Celso start that game. And as I said, there's no way either of them lasts beyond 65 minutes. So that squad is definitely stronger today than it was on January the 1st.
I would wonder, Tal, come over to you, and just to try and frame this in a way I would like to. I mean, obviously, he came out and said after the game, I know many people probably found this quite surprising, that this is for him. And again, I want to just get this obviously quite right what he said here. He thinks that obviously as a squad of players, he's one of the best that he's worked with. And I think, if you look at the last few weeks, we'd all be questioning that, thinking, are you sure, Antonio? Are you sure it's going to get carried away in the moment? But I think when you hear comments like that, then you hope that it gives you confidence that he also believes that this job will be beyond the summer. Because I know there's concerns out there that maybe feel when we get to the summer, whatever we'll be in, as Jace touches upon there, we don't know what side we're going to be. A Europa Conference League side, a Champions League side, again, a Europa League side. We don't know that question right now, but I really hope that win yesterday gives him the confidence to think, do you know what, I've got a group of players that have really bought into me, and with just the right additions, whatever level that we're in, he's got a team that can challenge here.
100%. I mean, I generally believe that I don't know what the right word is, but I think he probably thought the challenge wasn't going to be as challenging as it has proven to be. But on the opposite side of that, he knew the group of players that were there. He knew what he had to be dealing with. And, it's not the be all and end all. Like, he knew that was the case. He knew that it wasn't a ready-made team ready to fight for the title. And they are the group of players that he was aware that he was going to inherit, for better or for worse. That's what he had to deal with. Okay, maybe we didn't do the business that he would have liked in January. But again, if, all of those things are true, he knew we weren't going to go out and buy 10 players in January. So that was never going to be the case. And I think talent is another question, but I would assume, and I mean, how many managers have I been here on, in that these players needed a big manager to get hyped up over. Nuno wasn't that person. They weren't receptive to things like that, especially the better players within the squad. Conte is one of the best managers in the world. If you can't get hyped up for Conte, you shouldn't be a footballer. That has generally been the message. And I would assume and hope that this group of players are like sponges, because I think, of course, we don't know them personally, but from what we see, they all seem like lovely people, right? On and off the field. Like, they're a good group of boys. We know that there's friendships, like we know they're quite tight, or used to be, in bits and pieces. The new people seem to fit in. They, they get together outside of football. Like, they generally are friends in there. And that is, helps create a tight-knit group. And I think Conte obviously wants that relationship. He's here to build that. And I think he obviously likes that. And, he wouldn't come out and say they're some of the best group of players he's ever worked with. For him, I think he can't slate people on their talent. They are at our club, and that's not on him. He hasn't recruited these people. That's who he's had to work with, and all he can ask is for these players to give their all and, adhere to his philosophy and his tactics and carry out what he wants them to do. And I think yesterday was obviously an example of that happening, and that, some players are good enough to be here and he won't want to get rid of them, and others aren't. But ultimately, they are listening to him. They are executing what he wants. It's not consistently, that's a different thing, but they obviously are receptive of what he wants. So I think it is a big thing to say that they're a great group of players, because, we've seen people like in United's dressing room, there is toxicity. It's not good. I know we've had a few of them in the past. And I think especially getting rid of Tanguy and Dele and the Auriers and, the people that we thought were the troublemakers, what's left actually is a group of players that wants to be there, wants to learn.
Yeah.
And know it. And I think that's great. We can't change, like Jason said, we can't look to the summer. We don't know how many people we're going to recruit. We don't know who's going to go, who we're going to sign. That's, a cloud of question marks. We don't know. But this is who he's got to do 15 games. And they do it on the pitch, not him. He can teach them all his philosophies, all his tactics, and say, look, go up there, give it your all, execute this. But they're the ones that can do it. And yesterday proved that they can if they want to. And I hope that that gives it, an injection. And, the two new guys, I'm sure, will come onto them. But they're making a difference. And let's hope it's a sign of things to come that, we're going to get more consistent.
Fingers crossed.
The other thing I was going to say about January, and I've said it on Twitter, I think, window 1 for me was getting rid of the unwilling to, and window 2 is getting rid of the unable to. But there's a big difference between the unwillings and the unables. The unables will fight like a Højbjerg, like a Winks. They'll at least fight for you. And yes, they've got technical deficiencies, but those that went, maybe Brian Gill's slightly different because it's a bit too early, but they're the ones that just aren't willing to. And that's a big difference between unable to. So, as I said, we had a better window than people give us credit for. And we had a better window than any of those 4 or 5 clubs in and around us because they all did nothing. They all did absolutely nothing. And we actually got rid of some we didn't want and brought in 2 that could start away to Manchester City and play 90 minutes.
Yeah, no, spot on. A couple of comments on the screen here. Raj says Conte knew what he has at Spurs. What he perhaps didn't legislate for was this is a tougher league since he was last here. So there's a point there from Raj. Also, Sean Butler says a question for the panel: is Winks forever relegated to a sub unless we have injuries, or there is a time and place for him in the starting 11 on a tactical basis? Sean, we're going to come on to Burnley towards the end of the show, so we will discuss that. To Faz Radfar, Faz, I think to have missed your comments. If you want to send that back through to us, we'll by all means share that and we'll put that on the screen for you. So, Rob, what I wanted to ask you is a question that I came up with the guys here about Conte and what he said. Again, I still can't believe it, so I will read this out where he says, honestly, this is one of the best group of players I've worked with in my career. That's a massive statement to say, when you look at where he's been, the likes of Chelsea, Inter Milan, you do generally feel now there's a squad there that is together. Yes, we haven't seen it recently in terms of results, but, big words from Conte there. Do you think, again, he's just trying to maybe calm the media storm that we've seen over the past week and really show the players that, he generally feels some of them are good enough to be the level that Conte's at?
Well, he's obviously seen something in the squad within the first 3 months he's been at the club to make a comment like that. And is quite a telling comment as well, because like you said, he's been at Juventus with an exceptional squad, Inter Milan, Chelsea. I don't think you have to have the most talented squad as long as you've got a squad who are willing to guard and to get the points on the board. So, I mean, look, when Leicester City won the league in 2015-16, you compare that squad to a number of different ones, nowhere near the level of them. But they had hard workers there and they worked as a team. And I think that's key. And I think even Conte said when Chelsea won the league in 2016-17, Chelsea weren't even the best team that season. And I think he basically meant Tottenham were the best team because they had such a good team. And, if he can, what he also said in his post-match press conference was he wants to raise all the players' levels between now and the end of the season. Now, if you can do that and raise the team's level, then there's a good base there to start from next season when hopefully be able to bring in players in that. But there's certainly a good group there and there's a lot he can build on, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. To Faz on the screen there puts the question, did this match highlight the importance of Eric Dyer? Listen, we're going to come on to Dyer shortly in terms of the players, but I think all of us can say, Eric Dyer was phenomenal. And again, I think, having him back in that, back 3, back 5, whatever you want to call it, we look so much more solid. And him and Romero together, a couple of warriors in there. And again, it's key for Spurs that if we can keep, that defensive pairing, the centre-backs there fit along with Ben Davies, then who knows what Spurs can ultimately go on to try and do this season. And I'd say, James there, Talia is giving you a wave as you've requested there. Right, okay. We are going to go for our first break of the show for our listeners on audio. But before we do, we've had a whole host of listener statements in from you. I think over 50, 60 of them came in. So we've rattled them down. We just want to read these out actually before we go for the first break. J.L. Neal says, only Spurs can lose at home to Saints and Wolves, then win at the Etihad. Unbelievable. Sam Lewis says, this is why we love football. My love-hate relationship with Tottenham continues. What a brilliant performance defensively. Inner Strictness says, I have no question since I'm satisfied with this win that no one expected. I'll ask you all to remind yourselves when you talk about Kulu, Call him Decky, please. Not sure of the spelling, but Kulu is not preferred. So proud of our boys, COYS. Wayne Sheffield GM says, don't underestimate how good our midfield was as well. Worked their absolute socks off the whole game. Kane, Romero, the standouts, but the whole team were up for it. Amazing fight. Habib Hayat says, that was the complete team performance. I'm so happy with how it went and do not have to question anything. Just saying, well done to the lads. Sperano says, this result and performance shows the players are 100% behind Antonio Conte and have faith in his ideas, carrying those instructions out to absolute perfection. Big shout out to the players who some have suffered, as Jason touched upon recently, some negativity recently. The likes of Højbjerg, Sessegnon, Emerson, Kulusevski, of who all were warriors. Isn't that spot on? Isn't that absolutely spot on? So like I say, we are going to go for our first break of the show. For our listeners on audio, for our watching audience on YouTube, there's nearly 1,100 of you watching us live. So thank you ever so much for all of your incredible support. Now, we must say, in case you weren't aware, that we are delighted on the Last Word on Spurs to be sponsored by Nordvpn. So Nord are, of course, a secure, fast and incredibly easy to use VPN. With over 5,200 servers across 59 countries around the world, Nordvpn automatically selects the best server based on locations, loads of your specific needs. There is, of course, as we know, that odd rule in the UK, which denies many of us being able to watch the 3 p.m. games. I've got to say, for me personally, that I've really, really enjoyed using the product, as with regards to Nord, you can potentially, like I say, have the option of going to the likes of Peacock along with the Premier League on NBC Sports. That allows you to watch some of those 3 p.m. or the majority of those 3 p.m. kickoffs by just changing your location settings. I've also found using this product, which I really like, is that, again, depending on the location you change, you can get the likes of US Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, HBO Max, and Amazon Prime too. So as we say on the screen there, you can grab Nordvpn exclusive deal by going to, of course, www.nordvpn.com and use the code LWOS at checkout to get a huge discount and a 1 month plus free and a bonus gift. You can protect yourself online and gain vast access to amounts of entertaining content and never miss a Spurs game again. So I'm sure Jason McGovern can't be waiting to use Nordvpn. Let's just hope our defence, Jason, is that good.
Can I watch the cricket on it?
You can watch the cricket on it.
That's all right then. Okay. I'm up with that then.
In any country you like, Jason, you change those location settings. You'll be watching
watch
cricket.
That Papua New Guinea volcanic diving and things like that. Great. Perfect.
Most certainly. I promise you can do it. Honestly, you most certainly can. Right. Story of the game. Where do we start? Do you know what? We'll come over to you, Jay, to start it, because team coming in, Spurs making 4 changes, of course. We saw Dyer returning for the first time since Chelsea, the league defeat. And the first up for Dejan Kulusevski. Højbjerg and Emerson were back in for Winks and Doherty. No Reguilon due to COVID. So Sessegnon kept his place. That team read Lloris, Romero, Dyer, Davis, Emerson, Højbjerg, Bentancur, Sessegnon, Kulusevski, Kane and Son, with a bench of Galini, Rodon, Doherty, Sanchez, Winks, White, Bergwijn, Lucas Scarlett. Jace, when you saw the team, was you happy with it?
I think it wasn't that far from what most of us would have predicted. I think probably most of us would have recalled Højbjerg over Winks, particularly for the type of game that it was. Sessegnon, with Reggie, I think he's confirmed he had COVID, so that wasn't a total shock. That's the only option available to him. So it was a question of, did you try and go 3-4-3 and have Moore up front, or did you try and go 3-5-2 and Kulu starting? That was really just the only selection to choose. And Lucas Moura gives that great work ethic, but Kulusevski gave us a real bit of calmness and composure. And there was times when he just reminded me his movement and his coolness of prime Christian Eriksen. Okay, it was a wider position, but he had that kind of feel to how Eriksen used to be, and he more than justified his selection. So, we all know we haven't got a pool of 25 players to choose from. None of us would have probably thrown Bergwijn or people like that in. Do you pick Emerson? Do you pick Mac Doherty? If we're honest, none of us want to pick either of them, but one of them has to play, doesn't it? So it's no good moaning if one of them gets named and then it always, why has he picked him? And you think, well, what's the choices? So it wasn't that far from the team that I would have expected it to be, mate.
Let's come to you, Tal. Quite interesting in this game, 4 minutes in, I don't think we could quite believe the start we had. You know, a great ball from Davis to Kane, then played that wonderful first pass into Son's run. He was well onside, and he unselfishly, I think many of us probably thought Son might go to dink it or maybe try and take it around the keeper, but he unselfishly put it on a plate for Kulusevski, who not only did he slide it home, nutmeg the defender as well. It was a lovely, lovely start to the game for Spurs. And do you know what? I'm so pleased for Kulusevski because I saw some rumblings already on Twitter. When do you see rumblings on Twitter, eh? The guy's literally got off the plane. He's put on a Spurs shirt and he's already getting bollocked. You couldn't make this up. I mean, Talia, what a great start for him.
Do you know what? I think at first I thought Bentancur was definitely going to start, and I didn't know about Kulusevski. I was not sure if he was going to be on the team sheet or not. And I think, you know, quite a lot of people said the same thing. When we saw him there, I was like, right, this is a good opportunity to see what he can do. And I think, like you said, everyone was slating him because of his pace. Pace isn't everything, you know, there is more to people's game. And I think we hadn't really seen a lot of that. People were quick to jump on the fact that actually he's quite slow, but we know Kane isn't the fastest. And what is he as a player? Incredible. So, you know, there's bits and pieces to it. But what a start. I mean, it was sensational, wasn't it? I mean, that ball from Kane was absolutely unbelievable. And I think everyone, like before it even got down the pitch, everyone was like, oh, that was incredible. You see it at Sonny's feet and you're like, your heart goes because you're just like, exactly that. Is he going to do something silly? Is he going to try and go around the keeper? And I mean, when Sonny's not confident, we've seen it a few times, you know, he hasn't made the right decision and he has done stuff and you're like, why did he do that? And I think there was an element of that, definitely for me or in my house. We were just like, oh my goodness. But look, he was completely unselfish, made the right decision. Decky was great. I mean, it went straight through his legs. And I think everyone was just so happy for him. And I think, you know what, it got rid of the nerves in so many different ways. Like us as a team, for the fixture, for him on his full debut, I think it just made everything come together. And that goal was so powerful in that everyone was like, this is it. Like, we've got this. If we execute this, we can keep going. But look, I think, you know, we'll probably talk about him more, but I think, you know, Decky looks really good. He looks intelligent. And I think he made really intelligent decisions in the right areas. And I think we should have quite a good player on our hands. I think, you know, he worked his socks off. And that's something that people maybe weren't expecting because they were like, you know, he doesn't look as fit as some of the other players because he hasn't had the game time. But I think yesterday he literally ran his socks off. You know, he did and executed everything he needed to do. He didn't have that much of the ball, but I think he made pretty much every touch count. And, you know, he got like a goal and assist. He should have had another one. But it's bits and pieces in between. I think, you know, he will show his ability more, obviously, as he kind of adapts to the Premier League. But I think as a full debut, it was amazing. I think that definitely an
away
upgrade.
at City as well. I mean, away at City.
Exactly. Look, that is the pressure, right? You know, having a full debut in the Premier League is already so heavy. But when you're at the Etihad, you know, you've got all of this. You need to win. Like, that's difficult. And 4 minutes as well. He didn't settle. He didn't have an hour to, you know, just like take it all in. It was 4th minute, bang, bang. The ball's at my feet, full composure, straight through, calm. Like, he didn't look like, you know, some players, they don't know what to do when the ball's at their feet and they do have that panic. But I think he just was so calm and he just slotted it in. And it was just like, wow. Look, and I'm so happy for him in more ways than one. But I'm excited for him. I really am, to see what, you know, he becomes. And I think under Conte, again, and, you know, just adapting to the league, I think we've got a good player and definitely an upgrade on Lucas and Stevie B, I think.
Absolutely. Well, I mean,
just on him, I think one of the other big things that, I mean, I used to say it about Lamela, didn't I? About having that definitive game, that definitive big goal. And Eric Lamela, despite all those years, never really had that definitive moment in a Spurs shirt. And I think with somebody like Kulusevski, as an attacking player particularly, you know, it's funny when you need to earn the respect of your teammates. We know what it's like when somebody new comes to work. They need that good day in the office or they need to do something. And before you really start to trust them. And so when Sonny has a ball and he thinks, I can only give it to, when Kane has a ball and thinks, I've got to pass it to Son because I don't trust him on the right side. Suddenly he thinks, right, I can go left or I can go right.
Yeah, he's got options.
To get that respect to the rest of your teammates is huge. And so the rest of those players have come in. Maybe some of them thought, well, I wonder how they'll adapt they see a performance like that, and it's amazing the confidence that other players will then have in giving the ball to that player in certain areas. So it's huge that you do that early on.
He's also really young. I think that's
21 years old. Yeah, 21 years old. No, I must say, before we come over to Rob, as Stuart says on the screen there, never understand. We got Arsenal fans rattled in the comments by watching this podcast. I must say, for all the Arsenal fans out there, I hope you are enjoying every single second of this, because we're coming to see you soon. And Spurs, don't let me down after I've just said that, please. Rob.
Well, it's nice that they turn up, isn't it? Because normally they don't even bother turning up.
Turn up for a Spurs podcast. There you go. Love Arsenal fans. Always the worst. Obsessed. Rattled. Rob, let's come over to you. Listen, that first goal, Kane, the mastermind of it. I mean, a wonderful pass. But Kulusevski, I think the fastest Spurs have scored in their 25 Premier League visits to City. And he also becomes the first Swedish player to score for Spurs since Eric Edman hit that rocket against Liverpool back in 2005 at Anfield. But I've got to say, Rob, what an unbelievable start for the game for Tottenham.
Yeah, couldn't have gotten any better. And then you're probably just thinking, have Spurs scored too early here? Because then it's just going to be relentless City pressure after that. But no, incredible start. And on Kulusevski, then someone tweeted me after his debut, was it against Brighton in the Cup, got 22 minutes, and they're saying, like, oh, I don't think much of this Kulusevski already, just judging him on 20 minutes. But obviously, new signings need time in the Premier League, and he's made an instant impact. So I thought it was terrific yesterday. As Jason said, just like his movement was exceptional, and Kane was picking him out numerous times. And I mean, he swung in the cross for Kane's goal, what was disallowed, and then, teed up the winner. So there's a quality player in there. I know some Spurs fans were probably critical of the signings, maybe given how late they came in the window, with maybe some just viewing it as Paratici just going to his old club and bringing them in. Maybe if they'd signed at the start of January, maybe some of them viewed it as a bit differently. But Spurs have signed two quality players there. And looking at Kulusevski, his stats, I think when he was at Atalanta under 19s, he had like 25 goal involvements. He might be in the 11 goals, 14 assists in a number 10 role. That's where he favours himself, playing in that role. So you've got a very good player there. He proved that in Serie A with his season on loan at Parma. Did well in his first season at Juventus as well. So there's a really, really good player there, and someone Conte rates extremely highly, and hopefully there's much more to come from him.
Yeah, I mean, I thought for me, took his goal really well and assisted, of course, the winner in a really impressive display from him. And, Son and Kane were, of course, the match winners, but I don't think we should overlook that performance of Decky, because, I mean, overall, from a full first debut for Tottenham, I don't think you could ask anything more from him. And what really impressed me, Jace, I know he's come from a league in, again, Italy, and Juve as a team that there's pressure playing for them. But, already to have to hit the ground running when Spurs, of course, I think we all wanted more in that January window. There's going to be pressure there, there's expectancy there that we've seen at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. But, you've seen, again, a performance like that just gives you so much promise and hope, doesn't it? The kind of player we've got there, Jace.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not his fault he's not Luis Diaz, is it? And some people got seduced by Luis Diaz, and when you don't get him, it's like, oh God, what have we got here? Typical Levy. He's done the cheap option, rather than looking at the player that's come in and thinking, let's give the boy time. And you got people criticising him after 20 minutes that are saying that Gio needs more time after 3 years. And it's like, what? Where's the balance in that? So, give the boy some time to get going. But like I say, he's had a definitive game early on, and he's earned the respect of his teammates. I think next time we see him in a Spurs shirt, we won't be thinking, why is he in the team? He's too slow. We'll suddenly think, this bloke's got something about him. And that's the key thing, is to have that character to go and do things. He didn't go and shrink in a game like that. I think Eric Lamella's debut there was a 6-0 defeat, wasn't it? And so, when you put in a performance like that, when it's easy. Manchester City is not an easy game, is it? And it's easy to just kind of pale into the background in a game like that, and the game just drift you past. But he made a big part in it, and Bentancur as well. I thought his was a performance, but fair play to the lad, and hopefully he can build on it. But in those first few months, he will have good games, he will have bad games. It's a case of, don't get too heavy on him when he has a bad one. He could go to Burnley, and that game might bypass him. because of the totally different type of game it is. But let the boys settle for at least more than 20 minutes.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, after the game, Conte said to speak about one player is difficult for me. They made a fantastic performance. Kulusevski played a fantastic game. He's only 21, but he's got good experience because when you play for Juve, you have to have a lot of pressure. And I think, like I say, that again was screaming through just how he managed himself that game. And of course, lovely having someone that can cross a ball for a winner. And we will come on to that winner, of course, in due course of this show. City, to be fair to them, when we did go one up, there was real pressure there. We had Gundogan's curling shot that hit the outside of the right-hand post. And City really were getting in for fun down Spurs' right. And eventually, Talia, they did level it up. The Reece came out for a low cross, spilt the ball under pressure. It rolled to Gundogan, who absolutely smashed it into the back of the net. And, when you have these games, Tal, you feel that, it's a night where you're going to need to be, as a whole, everyone to have what Conte calls a perfect game. And even your goalkeeper, you need to have a perfect game. So at that point, obviously, you felt all that hard work was undone at that moment.
Yeah. I think it's difficult because when City attack like that, they're going to score, right? At some point, you feel in your heart that it's coming and that it's happening. But I think all of us are so kind of used to blaming one or more of our defenders that when it's Hugo, and sadly has repeatedly been Hugo in the last few weeks, it's a bit of like a punch in the gut moment. And, people saying, the new contract curse and all of that. People make mistakes. They really do. It's the consecutive ones that are a little bit like, oh, God. But look, if you make mistakes against City, they will punish you. They are a team that does that. Regardless of win, lose or draw, they are incredible players and an incredible team. And if you make mistakes and present them a goal on a platter, I'm sure 90% of the time it's a goal, right? And Gundogan was in the right place at the right time. And it was a huge error from Hugo. And I think, it's sad, I think, that there has been a hat-trick of errors from him, if we include the Wolves game, because before that, he's been outstanding this season and has made some incredible saves. And I know I've been on, and I'm sure others have as well, when we've been speaking about some of the anniversaries he's had and how great of a player he is. And I think he is, but it's a difference, and it's the whole world-class argument. And, we don't need to go into that. But I think yesterday, it was it started off in that first half with, it was on his shoulders and he spilled the ball and he should have done better. But the second half where he made that save, it was absolutely incredible. And that's what a keeper is. I think you can't punish Hugo too much. It is what it is. And thank goodness in this instance, it worked out all right in the end.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I just think we need a bit of something from him. I don't know. He's our captain at the back, and it's just, I think the consistency in the mistakes is just a little bit unsettling for people at the moment, I think is the word. But look, I love Hugo, and I think he's amazing. So I hope it's the end of a few bad games for him.
Yeah, I mean, Rob, to come over to you before we go to Jace again, like Tal said there, it is a hat-trick of errors, obviously catting Wolves in a season where he's been outstanding previously, made that great save in the second half as well. Should we be concerned, Rob, by the consecutive errors, or should we be more focusing on what a wonderful save that was in the second half?
I'd probably say more focused on that wonderful save. Yeah, there's been errors, but he's had errors in his game previously and he's bounced back. I think since the pandemic, since we went into lockdown, it's been absolutely fantastic, just so consistent. And especially this season as well, when not everyone's been performing. Hugo's been at the, top of his game week in, week out. Not a lot of errors. Yeah, there's been a couple of errors over the past few games, but he certainly atoned for that with that save. And as I think Jason mentioned earlier in the show, other than that, he had nothing to do, really, in terms of saves. And I think that just shows how well Spurs defended as a whole, and then, midfield as well, trying to limit City. But no, I wouldn't be too concerned there. He played his part in the win, because, if Gundogan scored that goal, then we might not be talking about a Tottenham win.
Yeah, no, I agree. Jace, come over to you. Of course, he was making his 400th appearance for Spurs. Listen, as we've discussed, gifted City the equaliser, but, fully made up with an incredible one-handed save tonight, Gundogan. When you watch that angle where it literally looks like he's clawing the ball out the back of the net. I know you've always been a massive Hugo fan. The penalty was unstoppable, to be fair to him, late on as well. Anything, Jace, you want to say overall? And do you think it's also great the way that he seems to always mentally recover after a really poor error? just how he seems to switch back on and focus. That's the remarkable of a keeper, isn't it? To be that good to be able to do that.
That's the key to all of them. How you don't let it affect the rest of the game. You just get on with it. I know people will say it affected in the rest of the game against Wolves, but Wolves with 2 mistakes early on is a strange one. But we've seen Hugo make those mistakes in the past, but overall, I always go back to it. For those XG lovers, and you look at it, saves per XG is constantly at the top of that. So you know what? If he makes 4 mistakes in a season but makes 20 saves that others don't make, there's a big difference. You're 16 goals better off. And whenever I hear somebody say, "Well, if you can pick any goalkeeper, I don't know, Emi Martinez or whatever, he wouldn't make that type of mistake," but you think, but then he won't make the 20 saves that Hugo makes either. So sometimes it's like the old goal difference, isn't it? It's the pluses and minuses. But whenever he's been called a liability, I've never gone down that route. He's the best goalkeeper we've had since Clements for sure. And, in the Premier League era, is by far our best goalkeeper, and we will struggle to replace him with anywhere near that quality. You might get somebody who doesn't quite make as many mistakes, but they won't make the saves that Hugo Lloris did. And you're right, that save reminded me of the Philippe Coutinho save, albeit in the other corner.
Yeah,
just an amazing save, and fair play to him.
Yeah. A comment on the screen there from Richard Blackdog, who says, Ricky Villa goal in the cup final we played 81. Kane in 95th minute yesterday. Man City, the gift that keeps on giving 40 years now. There you go, Richard, loving it. Right, and we must discuss Spurs going, of course, 2-1 ahead. And like I say, Phil there, quote that one there for all you XG lovers, Jason McGovern, 2022. There you go. Who would have thought we'd be seeing that on the screen there as a quote? Right, Spurs going 2-1 up. And it was, honestly, the scenes it caused. Because I think we've all got to be honest, going into half-time, there was a fear of City just coming out for that second half and absolutely going for us. But we went back ahead. Session picked up a loose ball. fed Son, who curled in a terrific, brilliant cross for Harry Kane to volley superbly into the top corner. And you watch that run back from Kane, who bust a gut to get there after his initial run. And just the goal itself, come over to you, Tal. We'll start with you on this. Just unbelievable, wasn't it?
Kane is just unreal. Look, I just want to cover as well. I don't want to touch on it too much, but I saw someone before being like, "Oh, do you remember when Tal said about Kane on the show?" I just want to say, yeah, I never ever said that I wanted Kane to leave. I worship Kane. I just said, look, if his head was gone and he was never going to be in it anymore, then it was something to think about. Kane is back, right? Those conversations are buried under the water, in my opinion. He and Conte are like this. It's the manager he wants. If we back him, Kane stays. Kane yesterday was, at his absolute best, right? He had everything in that performance yesterday. And I don't think there's a single person watching, Spurs fan or just a neutral, that did not think that Kane's all-around performance was absolutely insane. He is just a beautiful footballer. And we've seen, hundreds and hundreds of times, if not more. And the balls he does, the finishes, just everything. I think he was absolutely next level yesterday. The goal was incredible, and I think we're just so lucky to have him on the end of these things, just the visions and everything he does. But look, that goal was absolutely huge. I think for him as well, his record against City isn't the best of all the clubs that he plays against. And like you said, and we touched on earlier, he has something to prove. Whether how big part of that it was, we don't know. But he yesterday was so up for it in every way, hyped. And I think, it just kind of panned out exactly how it was. I think they touched on it in their interview after that. That was something that they very much contributed to Conte and what they've been practicing on and off the pitch or in the training field even. And I think, look, we've all kind of known that Sonny and Kane have an incredible partnership, and they're now, at the highest of the Premier League, or equal to even in their little duo between them. But look, they know where each other are. They can trust each other. And I think yesterday was just another example that he had the vision, passed him the ball. He was always putting that away. And that's when Kane's at his best. It was just out. Harry Kane is just God.
That's honestly, it was an amazing move. I know, Jace, you didn't enjoy the Jose Mourinho era too much, but what they did do, coming over to you, Rob, was it brought the best out of Kane and Son. There's no doubt about that. The quality between the two was just remarkable, and it felt like we went kind of back to that yesterday. Just the way that both the players were intertwining, kind of knew who each other were. And I know obviously we touched upon the fact that Tal said there, it seemed that Spurs were obviously planning that during the week, obviously having that entire week, as you mentioned. But the move itself, Rob, the telepathy to find Kane with a wonderful finish. And, of course, that means now that Harry Kane, who sort of equalled Frank Lampard and Didier Drogba's record for the most goal combinations in Premier League history, 36. The move itself, Rob, the telepathy between the two players, just remarkable, wasn't it, for the goal?
Yeah, it was outstanding. I actually thought Ryan Sessegnon were just going to have a shot because it fell kindly to him and in space as well. But thankfully, he did play the ball to Son. And as you said, Kane bust the gut to get in there. And I know everyone has been raving about Kane's passing. That finish was sensational as well, just to open his body up and find the top corner. No keeper in the world would have saved that. That was literally postage stamp. That move was terrific. But the one what actually impressed me move was the one after when Ederson saved from Kane, when basically I think it was Sessegnon into Bentancur, played it inside to Son again, who then picked out Kane. That was such a great move, and that actually deserved a goal. And yeah, Spurs went and won the game, but the football they played at times, the way they countered, there's some brilliant moves there, and potentially could have, scored more than 3.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it's a shame because the move afterwards was equally just as good, if not better, like you touched upon there. And, at one point you felt maybe being cheeky and we could have gone 3-1 up. But, Jace, I mean, listen, as we've discussed, again, when you look at that previous era with Mourinho and the link up between Kane and Son, I think that's one of the partnerships that for some reason just hasn't quite been there this season. But there's no reason, Jace, why we can't get back to it, right? Because we just saw the quality there against City. And they're one of the best teams in the league. So why can't we see this on a more regular basis?
No, you should be able to, and the understanding that each of the others have. I mean, Kane can play that ball to Son because he knows Son will make that run, and Son can make that run because he has total confidence that Kane will get the ball and find him. So, and it was actually I saw a comment where somebody was talking about whether they should have paid the money for him in the summer, and they said actually if you was going to go and buy Kane, you should try and buy Son at the same time because Kane without Son might not quite be the same for a time, and Son without Kane wouldn't be the same. So rather than targeting them as two players, if you're the type of club that does want to target them, you're actually better to target both at exactly the same time and take them as a pair. It is an amazing relationship they have. The fact that Sonny, it almost was an assist for each other, wasn't it? I know Kulusevski scores it, but the way that Kane put him through and then they get on the end of each other. They do it so often. They know each other's games. But I mean, they've played together for what? How long's Sonny been there now? What's this, 6 years for Sonny now? I'm trying to think when he came, it's season 6, season 5, season 6. So, it just shows you that understanding takes its time. But once it clicks, and that's the disappointment that I have with Lucas Moura, that he's never quite got on the same wavelength like Son's got on the same wavelength. And that's always been my problem with Lucas Moura of the two.
Yeah, and I think many picked up on it. The post-match interview yesterday between the two on Sky was remarkable. You can see there's a lot of love there for both of them. What I actually really enjoyed was the fact that, Son was saying early into that interview that, how frustrated he was and angered he was that Kane was being doubted at the start of the season. And because he said everybody believed that Kane had goals in his locker. And I think, again, you look at performance yesterday, as we've got to touch upon with Kane, arguably one of his best in a Spurs shirt. Now, again, we've discussed the point of Kane not stepping up enough on the big occasion for Spurs. And I think, again, that kind of, it relates to a reference there. This is the reason, we look at Kane's performance yesterday. There's no reason why, hopefully, please God, Spurs have got an FA Cup journey to come. Why Kane can't use that as a marker yesterday to be there in the big games. I think that's one point that we've seen, Rob, with Kane and Son, that, Son's always been the man that's been the frustration for City. But there was this real, this real determination about Kane making it his game, his day. Do you think Kane can use this game as a reference point now for the big games that come Spurs' way to be that main man?
Hopefully, yeah, that's what everyone hopes. But I think if you go back to January, he played really, really well against Leicester. He was outstanding that day. So it's been coming for a while and everything just clicked yesterday. It was, players do go through rough patches and he did have that at the start of the season. but he showed against City just how influential he can be on this Tottenham team. 2 goals, could have been a hat-trick if that one counted, what got disallowed by VAR. And so, yeah, fingers crossed he can, just carry on now, because such an important period coming up for Tottenham in the top 4 race. They're going to have to obviously get the wins on the board and hope everyone else drops points along the way. And then there's also the FA Cup. Not a bad draw. Middlesbrough, I know they've been doing well in the Championship, but if you beat them, then you're into the quarterfinals, and you're 1 game away from Wembley. So
as long as we go meet Chelsea.
Well, Conte, in his 2 seasons with Chelsea, he got to the FA Cup final in both seasons. So he will be focused on winning the cup as well. I mean, there's no distraction of Europe now as well. So, hopefully Spurs can get 4th and then have a cup run, and fingers crossed we'll see Kane play a big part in that.
Yeah. And the other thing to say on Kane is that, people saying it's his 7th goal of the season. It isn't. It's his 173rd, because don't forget he's a 1-season wonder. So, if he's only played for 1 season, he's got 173 league goals in it. So it's not his 7th at all.
Right, so we're going to come on to you. Listen, of course, we saw a VAR check against a potential 3rd goal for Spurs that got ruled out. It been Ben Davies, to be fair to him, a lovely crossfield ball to Kulusevski.
Who?
Ben Davies. I didn't say
6 or 6.5 yesterday. Or are you giving him a 7?
I'll give him a 7 yesterday, Ben Davies.
7.
I'll give him a 7.
Fantastic.
See, when you're not on him, I don't give him like Ben Davies now. I'm constantly giving him 7s. But no, it was a lovely ball crossfield to Kulusevski, ran in the box, and his shot deflected into the path of Kane. And to be fair, the finish from Kane, who took a touch, I mean, it was a wonderful finish. It is a real shame it was denied, of course, by VAR, because it was such a great move. Kulusevski, listen, half an inch offside. It was definitely obviously offside, so you can't deny that. But we then saw the bad side of VAR, Tal, and I think all of us at this point thought this is why I'm a Spurs fan, because of moments like this where you're going into stoppage time, and for a possible handball Romero. To be fair, for me, it's a difficult one. Obviously, his arms up there unnaturally. Yeah. I'm trying to think, if I was a Man City fan, I would be calling for that. So, I mean, trying to be unbiased here, which is hard when you do a Spurs podcast, I can understand why the referee gave it. And I think the minute he goes towards the monitor to have to go and watch it again, your heart's in your mouth. But what I will say is that I found quite unbelievable is that when the ref got to the monitor, I don't know if you guys saw it, the video was paused on the ball.
When it was on his hand, yeah.
I was thinking, talk about trying to convince him that it's not a penalty. The referee goes to the monitor and the ball's actually on Romero's hand. I couldn't believe it. But, I mean, Tal, was it the right decision, in your opinion?
I think the perfect kind of summary was, it was a penalty, but it wasn't an unnatural position. Like, that is somehow summarizes it perfectly. And I know the rules change all the time. Look, it hit his hand. So, like you said, if you're the opposition, that's a penalty. And you would say clear as day, his hand's in the air, it's above his head, that's a penalty. And I think it was the right decision. I think as soon as it happened, your gut knew it was a penalty. However, at the same time, I don't think it was one of the really stupid ones where someone's got their hand behind their head, swinging it around like, come hit me. It was very much, I'm falling over. The natural position is your hand kind of falls, and that is what happened. It was almost unlucky in that sense, but it was a pen, and I think you can't really argue against it. I think there's been a fair share where we're like, look, the ref was against us, they're biased, blah, blah, blah. It was a pen this time, and I think we just have to take that on our shoulders, and he'll learn from it as well. He will. And
it was remarkable. He was amazing during the game, wasn't he? We'll come on to him in a second, but I mean, it was unbelievable performance, Tal, wasn't it? Unbelievable from him.
It was. I think that he's a Rolls Royce defender, and he's the new Ledley, as people are saying. And I think we are so lucky to have him on our team. He was best player last year in the league or whatever he got. And I think, to come to Spurs, especially amongst everything, we were kind of all a little bit like, oh, is he as good as people saying? Because why would he come here? But I think we've all seen it. Some of the stuff he does is absolutely unreal. And realistically, he's been injured for quite a bulk of time since he's been with us. And you like to think, if he wasn't injured, would we have better performances? Same with Dyer. But I think, as a structure, having those two at the back and Ben Davies, whatever, is so much more solid.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, I sincerely hope we obviously get him permanently, pay for it properly, and he's with us for a long time, and settles in. And
totally agree. We'll come on to Romero shortly, but Rob, from the journalist perspective now, asking you to take off any Tottenham hat that you might have on there. Rob, penalty-wise, right decision from the referee? Impossible to not give that based on when he goes to view that at the monitor? And just as we asked Rob, it was almost like...
It was like a VAR moment itself, wasn't it?
You know what? It was almost like Mike Riley pulled his line then.
Froze beautifully there.
What I was saying before it froze, it was a penalty. I don't think you could have any grumbles at all with it. His hand was up. But if you watch it again, Romero's putting his body on the line there to do anything he can, to stop that ball coming in. And you can't make that movement with your hands down by your side. Hand is in a natural position for that movement. It hits it. It's a penalty. And, if it was at the opposite end of the pitch, Spurs fans would be saying, it's a definite penalty as well. So, can't have any complaints with it. It was.
No, I agree. It's one of those where, again, I mean, as I said, as a City fan, I'd be calling for that. Jerome says a bit of a conspiracy theory, but look at that fourth official when Kane scored. He looked as disappointed as Pep. Could be a camera angle, but it makes you think. All I would say, Jerome, is that I'm trying to be, again, unbiased here, which is hard on the Last Word on Spurs and trying to host the show. But I don't think we see that clip long enough to see what the full reaction is. In that moment, it does look like, because Guardiola's in the shot, that he is massively disappointed where, that would be really strange, if that is what it is, because you think, what is going on here? But again, listen, it's one up for debate. But Jason, quickly on
just on it, people talking about corruption and things like that, which I've never believed. It's worth saying that Anthony Taylor didn't give the penalty.
Yeah, he had to be convinced by the monitor.
He didn't give the penalty.
No, he didn't.
And then when it goes to VAR, I don't think you could argue it. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily deliberate handball. His hand's not unnatural, but his hand definitely comes towards the ball. And as soon as you saw it, I mean, I think Anthony Taylor's, and that's where I think VAR is right. When they talk about clear and obvious, you only needed to look at it actually once when you saw from that angle and you thought, that's a penalty. That's a penalty. For me, the problem with VAR comes when they look at it 22 times from 15 angles for 3 minutes. And I think if you need to see it that much, it's not clear and obvious. That was the perfect thing of clear and obvious. One look, one angle, job done. It was a penalty all day long. And you're right, up the other end, we'd be absolutely livid if it wasn't given. And we'd be saying it's corrupt that it wasn't given up the other end. So, the fourth official, it does look rather strange, his reaction. But he's probably thinking, oh, no, now I'm going to get barrels from Pep because Romero wasn't sent off because he got booked.
That's a good point.
And that's what City were arguing about, is that booked and then it's deliberate. If it's taken as deliberate handball, why isn't it a second yellow? So, I think that's probably what's on Craig Paulson's mind of who'd be a fourth official anyway with the amount of abuse they get. But it did look strange, that's for sure. Yeah,
I think it would generally be a referee, but you're spot on. Jason, stick with you, Jason. Listen, we have to come to you first for the reaction for that winner. Kane heading home. I mean, listen, the scenes on the touchline. Conte, listen, whatever you think about Antonio Conte, how can you not love him? He's almost like a Spurs fan. The way he jumps into the players, and even Roden, bless him. I think Roden was expecting that bear hug he got from Conte, but he was joining the celebrations. He didn't even get on, but he got a bear hug from Conte. Just explain that moment, Jason, as a Spurs fan. You feel like it doesn't really happen to us, but again, City away, you get moments like that.
You can't. It's the emotion of football, isn't it? And I bet if we all had a secret camera at home watching our reaction, you don't feel like you're doing it. I mean, the only time I think a camera was ever on me I didn't realise was that famous Swansea win when we did it in the dying seconds. When my missus showed me I was like, what, I did that? I had no idea what I did. And I bet it's the same with Amsterdam. So many of us did things we have no idea what we did in Amsterdam.
Emotions.
And it's one of those last-minute winners are always like that. But particularly in a high game like that, the emotion comes. And I'm sure my neighbour knew what had happened, and the rest of the street did over the top of Hurricane Eunice or whatever it was. I mean, Jet TV was exciting, but this was on a different level, wasn't it? That's for sure.
It was incredible. I mean, Tao, coming over to you. I mean, just the moment that we saw that lovely cross from Kulusevski, and the goal itself from Kane, that the power of the header itself, the move from Spurs, to have that belief that after that VAR decision goes against them, that there is still another goal in this game for Tottenham. Mentality-wise, how massive is that? We saw that against Leicester a few weeks ago, and yet again from Spurs to go and believe there's a winner in this for us at Man City and Watford. But City are potential champions in waiting here. The way Spurs acted, that's a team that believes, don't they? And that's down to the manager, isn't it? Surely.
100%. I think we've said how many times that mentality is one of our biggest issues. Of course, that is very much a fluid thing, and players have come in and out, but there's been so many times where we haven't been able to see things through because our mentality isn't where it needs to be a top challenging team. But I think, with confidence, it does obviously increase and get better. And I think recently you've definitely seen a shift in that those boys, until the whistle blows, they know that there is a goal in it for them if they just keep pushing. And that makes a difference between people that are challenging and people that are happy to be mediocre, middle of the table. I think, that's what you have to channel. And we saw it with Harry and Bergwijn in Leicester. The second that went in, they picked up the ball and went straight back to the centre circle. And that is drilled in. It's not over until it's over. Why settle? Look, of course, it takes a lot to be like, that's been disallowed. They've just equalised, dire moments. Can we go again? But
frankly, Tottenham, quite frankly, I can't believe this.
Can we have the video, Frank? We need the video of this.
For listeners on audio, Frank says, my missus run out of the house topless. Unbelievable. Back to you, Tal. Sorry for cutting you short there.
No, why was she topless at 6:30 on a Saturday night? It's too early. Wait till 10:30, mate. Wait till Match of the Day's on for that.
But honestly, I mean, Tao itself, the way the players, even at full time, that the reaction amongst the group there, that's a group that's believing, isn't it?
It's elation and relief and pure happiness. Because I think when you play games like that, how many times have we played well and not got what we deserved? And you come away, and that's when it's the most frustrating, that you put in a shift and you think, we deserved something from that game and we got nothing. It's happened repeatedly with Liverpool, I think, is the clear and obvious one. Sometimes we play really well and we don't get what we deserve, and you just feel so gutted. And I think that is almost what you have to channel. And I think we deserved something from yesterday. There was so much good in the game that it would have been honestly such a shame to not have achieved anything. And I think it was pure happiness, elation, and just more than anything, just confidence that came oozing out, because it was, we've got what we came here to do. We've achieved it. On to the next one. It's set up for the next game. I just think, all around it was great. And Conte Cam is one of my favorite things in the whole world. I love how passionate he is. Truly, it's amazing to see, but it's contagious as well.
Yeah,
you
totally.
Look at that, you see the emotion, and that makes you want to fight for someone. We got dry people. But I will say, I think in interviews he comes across so dull and dry, Conte. And then when you see him on the touchline, he is so full of chaos and amazing emotion. I'm like, the two don't match up. But I think when players see him on the touchline running, they're happier than anyone, and that is contagious. And I'm just so happy.
Didn't the beard stroking of Nuno do the same thing for you?
Unfortunately, Jason, I'm not a beard girl, so it didn't do it for me.
There's a lot of beard people that were just lost now after that comment. So sorry for obviously Robert.
It's not about his beard; it could have been his chin, but it was just you just saw him puzzled like this the whole game and thought, a bit like a garden gnome on the side, and you thought, what is he doing?
But I think anyone, you are motivated by someone being in your corner 24/7, whether that's, a job or football. If you look to your right and you see someone cheering you on, motivating you, saying, push, do this, do that, that gives you an extra edge than someone just standing there almost being like, I don't really know what to do now. I don't know what sub I need. I don't know what to do here. He always he seems like he always is pushing them to do better. And I think that is what this players need. And I think that is part of building this philosophy, mentality change. It's that actually I've got you, I'm here to support you. I'm not just here behind the scenes. I'm going to help you get through it. And it proved it yesterday. And I think having those moments, especially on camera as well. I think it's so amazing to see. And the players would have seen that back. You know, a lot of them wouldn't have seen that live. They'd have been with each other huddling. But when they see that, they're like, this guy is real. Like, he's raw and he's Tottenham. And that's unreal.
Yeah, it was. Rob, coming over to you. I struggle to think of a more than just eye-catching from Kane, but just a full performance from a player like that, you know, to have, you know, the involvement that he's had, not only goal scoring wise, but, you know, link up from passing as well. I think many people, you know, as Spurs fans, I think we've all known for a very, very long time, you know, Kane's ability, not just for finishing, but for passing. But I think, you know, that game in itself was real statement to City. You know, it was almost to say, look what, you know, you missed out on here. And again, I'm not trying to wedge there any City bits to come in, but as I said at the early start of the show, you almost feel like the 75 million when you watch that performance was almost an insult when you think they paid 100 million for Jack Grealish. But overall, Rob, you know, Kane will obviously take the headlines, and what a goal to win it.
Yeah, just going back to the celebrations first, one thing people might not have noticed, you want to watch Ryan Sessegnon, what he does, because he was substituted off at the far side. And Paul had to make his way all the way around the pitch again. And whilst he's walking back, Kane scores. And there's a video of him doing the rounds on Twitter today. He sprints past like the City dugout straight onto Emerson, I think, just joins in with the celebrations. The celebrations were fantastic. But going back to your question on Kane, yeah, I mean, a lot of people probably just see Kane as a goal scorer, but he is such an all-round player. He's got everything in his game. He's brilliant hold-up play, abilities to bring the ball down, playing others. He's so good. And you're just thinking, if City were bidding 75 million, that's just like a derisory offer. I know talk about Levy having that gentleman's agreement with him, but there's got to be a suitable bid what comes in. And obviously there wasn't. You need to double that, really, if you want in Kane. You want 150 million. Yeah. He's that good, and he proved that yesterday. Yeah, he might have had a bit of a rough start to the season, perhaps a hangover from the Euros, and obviously maybe not getting the move. But he's proved it so far this year, what a good player he is. And same as last year, he was Premier League top scorer and got the assist as well in the league, didn't he? So he's got everything to his game. He's such a good player, and Tottenham is so lucky to have him, because he's world class.
Yeah, I think when you go to Man City, I think we'd all probably say we think of the best passer in the Premier League as Kevin De Bruyne, who's an amazing passer. I think there was 6 or 7 passes from Kane yesterday. I can't remember one from Kevin De Bruyne, and that's not a criticism of Kevin De Bruyne, but to go to Kevin De Bruyne's domain and pass the ball repeatedly, one after the other like that, right foot pass, left foot pass, crossfield pass, through the middle pass, little flick round the corner pass. I mean, Kevin De Bruyne would have come off that pitch and thought, Jesus, this bloke's a good player. And that's why that price in the summer, last year in Kane, you had prime Aguero and you had prime Kevin De Bruyne. Yeah. And if you're trying to buy Aguero and prime Kevin De Bruyne, you have to pay a lot more than 100 million to get them in their prime. And that's what he was. And so, you know, the Manchester City needed to bid 170, 180 million for him to have any chance. And I didn't realise Kevin De Bruyne gave it away. But I mean, in general, we all sit back week in, week out and talk about what an amazing passer of the ball Kevin De Bruyne is. But he got a passing lesson on Saturday, that's for sure. Well,
again, a lot of comments here. Peter saying, Kevin De Bruyne dispossessed 31 times yesterday. King Hoddle there saying, we actually shut Kevin De Bruyne out the game. I think, again, credit to Conte for that. The way Spurs really, really seem to, like I say, Kevin De Bruyne is one of the best players in the world, right? So to be able to obviously shut him out of a game, that's a really well thought out plan from Conte. Unbelievable. Right. I mean, again, there's so many players, but we still want to talk about. I'm just conscious of time, and again, we've got Burnley to also come, and for reference, we did say to Rob, it will be under 3 hours. It will be under 3 hours, Rob. It will be under 2 hours, I promise you. So we are going to, like I say, try and move swiftly on. But Conte said on Harry Kane, he's been trying to make him more of a focal point. We're working with him. He's also become a reference for us to become more of a striker, because sometimes in the past he liked to go outside and play the box. He's also very good at this. And Guardiola, I thought, was quite funny after the game, was asked about, if he now admires Kane even more on the back of, course, that performance. He said it was never an option in terms of signing him in the summer. So let's forget the summer. It's not necessarily today to show his quality and his goals. All of the UK knows that. So there you go. That was Pep Guardiola's thoughts on Harry Kane. Right. Going from defence to attack. I mean, Christian Romero, obviously, he was on the back on the right of the back three. You know, he was unfortunate, as we said, to concede that penalty after what could only be described as a really authoritative display from the Argentine. Tao, you know, you talked about him earlier. That 98th minute clearance, you know, I don't think it's been highlighted anywhere near as much as it should be. It was remarkable, wasn't it, to have still the ability to go like that late in the game. Obviously, that was a really important interception when you think about it, because could be going anywhere in that box, could be going in. How good was he overall, Tal? Obviously, like you said earlier, brilliant player for Tottenham.
He's a top-class centre-back, and I think it's so clear to everyone. I think he reads the game so incredibly well. And look, I do think the whole penalty situation was unfortunate, and let's kind of like take that aside in this situation. But I just think the way he reads the game is so good, and you kind of almost trust that everything he's going to do is right. Like, you know how we watch the Auriers and the Dohertys of the world, and we all have a bit of a oh god, like
you mean like that?
Yeah, exactly. You don't trust that they've got this. They don't have it. Romero has the ball. You trust that he's going to make an unbelievable tackle, and that it might be jumping the bandwagon and etc. But I just think he's so quality. He's impressive, and look, he's amazing. But I don't want to, undermine Dyer and the partnership at the back and the whole thing. I think yesterday everyone was great, but I generally think he's great, and I hope that he is the foundation of our back line for a long time to come. And like I said, I want to shout out Dyer as well, because I sincerely do think that with Sanchez in that back line, we are nowhere near as strong as when Dyer's there. And I think together, I know we don't see them working too much, but the thing is great. Someone said, yeah, he's such a baller. He is a baller. And I think we're bloody lucky to have him. And if some people are saying it's not, you're lying. You're actually lying.
No, I agree, Tal. I agree. Rob, coming over to you. I also want to bring Eric Dyer into the conversation as well, because it was so easy to see why Conte was so desperate to have him back, wasn't it? You know, that performance yesterday from him, he really, I would say the word, and I mean this, honestly, I think he transformed that back line. We looked so much more assured. There was almost a real calmness from what had been a real jittery mess, we've got to be honest here, on the back of those Wolves and Southampton defeats. But I think it gave Conte a real solid base to kind of work from the back to then forward. And, overall, those two, thoughts on them, Rob, both of them?
Exceptional. I mean, you've got to include Ben Davies in that as well. He was excellent. I know everyone's going to get Harry Kane, obviously Son, Kulusevski are going to get all the credit for the win. But I think you've got to give plenty of plaudits to the back three, because they were under a lot of pressure throughout, defended extremely well. Romero, he's just so confident. Even when he's, on the ball or trying to defend in the corner, you just trust him. And what we've seen from Romero so far during his time at Tottenham is he will get on the ball and run out of the back line, but there was none of that from him yesterday. So Conte obviously must have drilled it into him that you cannot leave gaps in the defence, because obviously City will exploit them. But Dyer as well. I mean, I asked Conte about Dyer a few months ago in the press conferences, and he did say he can become one of the best players in the world in that position. So obviously he's seen something in Dyer to say that. I know Dyer has an awful lot of critics, but over the past few seasons, it has played well in the centre-back, perhaps just lacks that consistency to his game, but I think he's got that now under Conte. And, Conte and the Italian game, they know how to defend. So Dyer and everyone else is just going to pick so much up from Conte and his coaching staff. And also, I think what helps everyone is at the back. Dyer can speak a number of languages.
Good point. Great point.
He can communicate with Sanchez when he's there, with Romero, and I think that makes everything easier for them.
He's so vocal as well, and irrespective of language, I think he really does help the back line gel together. Him and Lloris, I think they are quite loud together, and I think Dyer is very much a shout and trying to help people come together, and I think he definitely gets overlooked in terms of that kind of superiority and almost uses experience for the better.
Yeah, I think his leadership skills and organisational skills are there, and you can see that. And what we noticed when the games were behind closed doors is actually how loud some of the players are. Hugo, especially, Dyer as well. Whether players can hear that on the pitch further upfield, I don't know, given the noise in the stadium. But Dyer, Romero, exceptionally. Dyer's got to be in the next England squad.
Yeah. No, you'd be surprised, wouldn't you, if he doesn't get given a recall. Bearing in mind, the way Jason, I absolutely had a go at Lee McQueen for him suggesting that Dyer should be anywhere near a Spurs lineup. But there you go, isn't it funny? Football, you want to be proved wrong. Listen, you want to be proved wrong. You really, really do. Jace, constant time. Romero, Eric Dyer, Ben Davies thoughts, and Damien also says just Dyer and Romero together. Just how important are they as a partnership?
Massive, and I think also positionally it helps if Dyer's the middle one of the three. I think you saw how Romero maybe struggled a little bit being the middle one that has to give those instructions out or do most of the talking, and I think it's better for him to be on on the right hand side. But I think fair play. I must face it, fair play to Anthony Talia yesterday, because my worry was that he would eventually give a penalty against Romero from one of those corners, and it's the one thing that perhaps. That as time goes on for Romero, he'll have to learn when you can tread the physical line, and when other teams will look at that and think there's a chance for me to go down in the box from corners, and with a different referee you might well find he'll give a silly penalty away on that. So it's just those little things to learn, but you only get that through playing the league and learning your players and things like that. His general game looks superb, but it's just one of those two little bits that in time that you'll need to smooth out. But fair play. I mean, I was worried at every corner yesterday, I must admit, early on, because every single corner, we know pushing and shoving goes on at corners, but he kept looking at Romero and Diaz as a pair, didn't he? And I thought eventually something's going to happen here if we're not careful. So fair play to Anthony Taylor for letting that go for most of the time.
Yeah, like I said, I think that's just one element. Listen, he's been remarkable since he's been here. But like you said, it's just knowing how far you can tread that line and how far you can go. And
you only get that you only get that through playing and learning. And like I say, you learn your referees. You learn with a John Moss, maybe you can't do that. Yeah. And you learn against certain attackers. I can't do that. Like with a Salah, they'll fall over, or a Richarlison's going to fall over. It's just learning, which you only do from playing games.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Very quickly, Ben Davies, of course, involved in the build-up to Son's goal with that fine pass. And, I'd say played very well, Ben Davies. He really, really did play very well. Emerson Royal, listen, credit to Emerson Royal. We just haven't got the time to touch upon these players due to the amount of time we've given to so many. But, he made some really, really important contributions there defensively to him, and included a massive block on Raheem Sterling, to be fair to Emerson Royal, who's taken a lot of stick recently. But, to be fair to Emerson, had a good game. Matt Doherty, obviously, of course, Talia's favourite. He came on for Emerson. He did help the Spurs see out a really, really important win. It was a real disciplined display from Doherty for the time that he was on it. He actually made a real crucial block to deny Bernardo Silva, so massive credit to him. As Jason says on the screen there, to remind me, 7 out of 10, and so does Phil. We'll give him a 7 out of 10, no problem at all. Ryan Sessegnon, interestingly, Tal, coming over to you, played a massive part, of course, in Kane's goal. Again, many may feel he looked a bit hesitant on the ball. For me, I think he's growing in that role, and you could maybe argue that. I always feel with Sessegnon, over time, he may end up being Spurs' first choice left back, which again is a left wing back, which is obviously a big statement to make, bearing in mind Reguilon is probably the favourite out of the two for the moment. But very quickly on Sessegnon, because of time, Tal, thoughts on him? Can he use his performance as a platform now?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think he has to play more. He is very much not got the consistency in playing, and he lacks confidence, right? Like, if he played consistently and learned from people around him, I think he'd be a lot more confident. I think, especially after what happened the previous game where he got taken off early, that's obviously quite a difficult thing to take, and we've seen it with more experienced players that's actually quite hard. But I think, for the player that he is, to take that on the chin, start the next game against City at the Etihad and play the way he did is really quite great. I don't want to slate Sess, because I think he had a good game, and he had good runs, he had space. He just lacks that bit of confidence for me. I think, if he did have that, he would make a lot more through balls and have that vision, and he has the ability to do that, but I don't think he gets that if he just plays here and there. And very quickly on Emerson, for me, he isn't the answer. Sorry for any form of negativity, but he's just not it for me. But neither's Doherty. So that's definitely the weak link. And I think Pep knew that. He did a lot of his channeling work down that side to try and target him. And that's where a lot of it kind of came through. And if it wasn't for the boys at the back, then I think they would have obviously been a lot more successful. But look, he did make some good things as well. And like I said, it's not one to slate on anyone. I think, you know, it was an all-round great performance for all 5-3, whatever you want at the back. So, fair play to them both.
I think with Cess, he just needs to develop a personality. Because I believe the talent's in him.
As well, he just needs to grow.
Yeah, he needs a person. I mean, you don't see him really talking to others. It's as if he's scared to organise at corners and things because someone will turn around to him and say, well, you ain't played very well. And he's kind of within his shell all the time. And, you know, he's had a terrible year, hasn't he? That he's had injury problems. Then he gets a chance in that Europa League game and gets himself sent off in 25 minutes. Waits ages for a chance, plays against Liverpool, played well against Liverpool, immediately out injured from that. Comes back last week, finally gets a chance, has to be taken off after 20 minutes in a reshuffle. So it's been hard for him. But I think the talent's there, but the personality has to grow. It's the belief, the confidence, that personality has to come out because he looks like he feels he doesn't belong there at the moment. And that's his biggest, I think that's the biggest problem for him. Just grow a pair, grow a personality, and I'm sure that will lead to the belief and the confidence that will take him forward.
You got thoughts about Rob?
Sorry, I just want to say that I do think he kind of needs someone to take him under his wing a little bit and teach him the ways. In that, you know, with the centre backs, they have grown because they had the Toby and the Jan, and they had those, you know, players that had the experience and had the skill set and talent to match. Whereas I don't think Reggie is that person for Cess. You know, they're both quite young, and he doesn't have what Cess maybe needs to kind of almost step back as the second choice, but there to learn and grow from that and take his chances in the games that he has, but ultimately will have the goal to be that first choice. But at the moment, you know, I don't think he's going to get the run, and I don't think there's anyone here at Spurs that kind of has the ability to give him almost what he needs and help him become that better player. But it's a TBC thing for me. But look, I think he did well, but I don't think he is the answer right now. He's too young, needs to develop. And like I said, I'd like to see someone kind of come in, be able to teach him the ways, share that, and be a better player for it.
Yeah, just gone to time, Rob. Very quickly on Sessegnon, you got anything you want to say on Cess and that performance yesterday? You mentioned about the celebration, of course, at the end.
I'd probably agree with both of those two assessments of him. I think you forget how young he is because he just seems to have been around for years now. He's still only 21, and since he's been at Tottenham, he has had some rotten luck with injuries. He arrived injured. He must have played 2 games under Pochettino. He was in and out when Mourinho was manager. I think he was injured for all of pre-season under Nuno as well. Maybe played 2 games. But I think the fact Conte started him will give him a big confidence boost because of the fact that he came off after 28 minutes against Wolves. He's probably thinking, probably not going to get another look in now if like Reguilon was going to be back. But I think Sessegnon probably is more suited to a left wing back role rather than Reguilon. He's got the attributes. He just needs to discover some confidence and, like you said, a personality. He's got everything in his locker to be a big success there. He just needs to get a run in the team, and like you said, totally agree with that.
I look at him sometimes because he's only got Sonny in front of him, and we know Sonny isn't the best at tracking back. We've seen that in the past, and actually, if you look at the first goal, how Sonny just allows Kevin De Bruyne to run off him, and it's up to Sessegnon to really give him a rocket and say, "Oi, you know, you're supposed to be here." But it's like Sonny is. He's a god, and I can't say that to him. And you just need to grow. You just need to grow.
Yeah, Yusuf on our listener statement here says, I thought he looked quite solid and they didn't get an awful amount of joy down his side. I think a run of games could make a difference. He does lack confidence slightly, as like I say, you guys have all alluded to. Right, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, you know, to be fair, you know, back in the team, I know, again, he's had a lot of criticism on Twitter. Who doesn't have criticism on Twitter these days, to be fair? But again, I think he used every trick in the book, you know, to kind of, you know, waste time. He disrupted City on many occasions. I think he really did use, sticking with you, Rob, you know, that experience and that real doggedness in terms of, you know, even when Spurs were, you know, at times in that game, almost, I would say, under pressure. seemed to go down, waste a bit of time, really using, I'm sure, a great amount of knowledge there from Conte. But what did you make of that, Rob? Because he's had some criticism recently, hasn't he? Of course, Højbjerg.
It has. He's not had the best of seasons, especially compared to last season, because he was very good. He played every minute of last season, and perhaps the decision to leave him out of the team against Wolves was a good thing for him, just to let him have a breather, get his fitness levels back, and then put him back in. And yesterday, I thought he played very, very well. I think it was the right decision to put him back in, especially against City, given the likes of De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, and that in midfield. And you saw what he was doing to frustrate the City players and the City fans, just by taking his time, making fouls. That tactical foul, I think, was on De Bruyne, where he got booked.
Yellow,
De Bruyne, and turned around and pushed him. And that's what players like him need to do the dirty stuff in the middle, do the hard yards. And it might not be seen by everyone, but he's probably one of these who the teammates appreciate him. I think he's a player's player. Once you played with him, you know how good he is, what he'll do. Good performance from him. Hopefully,
can I ask you, Rob, very quickly? I don't know if you saw it full time. Again, this was kind of doing the rounds on Twitter. That Joe, I saw some funny comments on there. There was one comment that said that Højbjerg called Talia, I can't really swear on it. You know what I was going to say. Yeah. But I mean, I don't know if I didn't pick up anything on the full time there between Conte and Højbjerg. Again, we don't feel had a fallout. We just won against City away. I'm sure after that performance, could you have a fallout with him? Rob, did you see anything there at all at full time with Conte and Højbjerg?
I didn't, to be honest, because I had my head in the laptop. I had so much stuff to do come the full-time whistle, so I totally missed that, unfortunately.
Yeah. Again, I think, obviously, from our perspective, watching it, obviously the camera's panned away. So, listen, I'm sure on the back of that performance, how could you be angry at Højbjerg on what he done? So, probably something out of nothing. We'll go to Jace next. Jace, obviously, our new January deadline day signing, Rodrigo Bentancur. He showed some real combative style to his play, getting really stuck in. He used the ball well when he had it. I know there's been some comments that he lost the ball as well on many occasions, but as a second appearance in a Spurs shirt away at City, big game. Got to stand up and be counted. I thought he played ever so well. What do you think of him?
Everyone will lose the ball against City away. Part of the way they defend, the way they swarm you, the way they shut down passing angles and things. It's very difficult at City. So, the number of times you give the ball away against City, that's why they have 70% of the ball. They win it back so quickly and then they keep it. So, but the bit of skill just after the penalty decision where he hadn't given the penalty yet to get out, the ball that sets Kulusevski away. We saw the Southampton game when he came on and instantly played a bit of skill and a fantastic Brighton or Southampton. I can't remember which one of the two it was.
Southampton, I think.
It was a Southampton game, wasn't it? Where he sent Lucas Moura away. So you can see he's got that in his locker. And as I say, that the pass that set Kulusevski away, if that's Winks, that just goes right to Doherty or it goes back to Romero. But he saw the pass, instantly makes it. I think he looks a massive acquisition. And let's be fair, I mean, in his time in Italy, the first 3 seasons, he played 30-odd games in a side that won the league each of those 3 seasons. So you can't be a bad player. You can't be a mug, otherwise that doesn't happen. No. And I think he's just got that little bit of experience. I think he'll be a huge... He doesn't look... He's quite slight, but he doesn't look like he's going to struggle with the physicality of the game. I think he'll be brilliant for it. He reads the game well and he can get himself out of tight areas. So, I'm not going to go overboard with him and call him, as some do, the best midfield player in the Premier League already. But he's definitely an upgrade. He's definitely on an upgrade on what we've got, that's for sure. Yeah. And you can see when we play big games, he's starting, that's for sure.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say there, Jace, he's definitely upgrading on Ndombele. I thought we're not going to get you started already, are we?
No. He's definitely not a slow boner either, is he? That's for sure.
Tell very quickly, because of the time, Bentancur, happy with that performance, the way he played?
Yeah, really happy. I mean, seeing in the previous couple of games, I think he looked great. And I think, if anything, that might be a better game to judge his ability, because, like you said, City is a really difficult game. But I think in the previous games, his cameos were great. And it's the forward for me. Like, what is frustrating about Winks, etc., is just the constant going backwards. And I think he very much has that outlook of going forwards, and that's something that we are so desperate to utilize. But again, he had those tricks in his locker. He had the visions. His first touch is really good. He just looks great. And I think yesterday as well, we're talking about the partnership with Sonny and Kane, etc., and obviously how great it is that those guys trust Deki already. That ball between Bentancur and Deki, Kulu, whatever the hell you want to call him, was amazing. But I think that is part of having a partnership as well. Like, they're used to each other, and that's within one game. And I'm quite excited to see, the four of them and, a few others over time on the training pitch to see what they put together, because I think they definitely have understandings of each other, and together, if they work on that, I think it's something that could be quite special. Not to get carried away, obviously, but I think, look, they both look like really great additions to the team. And I'm excited to see, them develop with Conte and the team, and hopefully, make a difference to us, because this whole argument of 4 out, 2 in is redundant, and that actually these two players are starting games for us, big games against City, and hopefully that is a sign of things to come. And yeah, let's go. Improvements only.
Yeah, no, I did promise these guys we're going to be an hour and 40. We're an hour and 45, and we still haven't discussed Burnley. So, conscious of time, Rob, come up, I can see Jason's face. And also, Rob, who's a guest on this show as well. Bear in mind, Talia and Jason are regulars on this. They know what it goes.
Hold on, I'll wind my clock back an hour, and then we'll be on schedule.
We may be for Burnley.
Ricky's 2 hours actually is 4.
Rob, let's come over to you very quickly on Bentancur, then we will look ahead to Burnley. Thoughts on him, Rob, so far, the way he's settled in that performance against City?
Yeah, I think he's been a really good addition to the midfield, and a bit of a bargain buy as well. I can't remember the exact figures. Juventus released them after Tottenham confirmed the signing. I think it was it like 15 million plus maybe another 5 if they meet a number of variables. So I've been really impressed with him. Cameo against Brighton was really good. Same against Southampton. Then yesterday against City, maybe lost the ball a couple of times, but you are going to when you've got players like Rodri, De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva around you. But he made a number of very good tackles, to be honest, when City were in good positions to come out and win the ball. Used it well at times. I think he's been a very good addition. And what is he? 4 or 5 games into his Tottenham career, it does usually take, the foreign players a good 12, 18 months to really settle. So what we've seen from him
3
so
years,
far...
some of them.
Well, some are still waiting, aren't we?
Some of them just don't have it in there.
We're not doing that on this show, I promise. We're not taking Rob any further down that line, Jace. I can tell him that. Very quickly, before we look ahead to Burnley, Heung-min Son again, very quickly on Son. He punished City with 2 brilliant assists. I know, obviously, some feel Sonny's been off the boil recently, but, what a way for him to come back into the reckoning of Spurs. He raced behind Diaz and coolly squared for Kulusevski for Spurs' opener before that brilliant cross for Kane. A real constant threat, isn't he, on the counter, Heung-min Son, and great to see him back on form. And also Lucas, when he came on, he ran his socks off. So listen, a real tip-top Tottenham performance. And like I say, we are going to go for our final break of the show for our listeners that are on audio. Taking into this break, you're going to hear from a couple of Burnley podcasters that have very kindly given us their thoughts ahead of the game. You've got a couple of guys from the No Nay Never podcast and also the Turf Moor pod giving us their thoughts. And we're going to do that right now, guys. We're going to do it in 5, I promise. Right, Burnley to come. Just saw the reaction there, the faces thinking, are you serious? We are doing this in 5, I promise. Burnley to come on Wednesday night. I promise. But Wednesday night, obviously a massive game for Tottenham. Let's be honest about it. The City game, the win, means absolutely nothing if Spurs don't go to Burnley and take all 3 points, which won't be easy because, Rob, starting with you, Burnley, they're really buoyed of that great result of the weekend, a 3-0 win away at Brighton, which can't be underestimated. Brighton have been doing well this season. I know they've had a rocky patch recently, but that is only the second win of the season. And Burnley has 17 points, 19th in the table. Really, Rob, this game for Spurs, we're going to be going there looking to take all 3 points, haven't we?
Fingers crossed, but Burnley a decent side. I know they're around the bottom of the table, but I think after drawn too many games this season, not actually maybe lost that many recent weeks, played well. I think they drew against Manchester United. Liverpool just beat them. I think it was 1-0, and then they went and got a terrific win at Brighton yesterday, 3-0. A couple of very good goals in there. One from Aaron Lennon as well. former Tottenham player, and you know what you're going to get when you go to Turf Moor and play against the Sean Dyche side. You are going to be in for a battle from the very first minute, and you know the defence are going to have to get used to playing up against Weghorst, the new striker, and then Jay Rodriguez as well. So they're going to be in for a real battle, and it will be a battle across the pitch. Obviously, Tottenham are fighting for the top four. Burnley scrapping for the lives at the moment. Home game under the lights. They'll be confident of, carrying on from that win against Brighton. It really is going to be a tough game for Tottenham. But if they play anywhere like they did against City, then hopefully we'll be talking about 3 points.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Jace, coming around to you. That was Burnley's first win in 30 matches. They've managed just 2 in their last 15. So you know what I'm going to ask you if Tottenham are going to turn up. But I'm also, Wout Weghorst, a player that Spurs, I think, looked at quite seriously when Jose Mourinho was here. He'll be having to inspire the team after, I think what he's now done, it seems to have changed Burnley's style a little bit. They're not always the long ball now. He does give them a different option. What's your thoughts going into this one, Jace?
By all accounts, they played really well at Brighton. I haven't seen anything of that game at all. But this is the one I always rip you on because everyone says it's a tough place to go. And I think they've won 6 of their last 50 at home or something. So, a tough place to go, but they've only won 6 out of 50 at home or something daft like that. It's about us. It's about us. It's our attitude. It's one of those attitude games, isn't it? Don't go there and think it's going to be a rollover. Don't go there and think it's going to be easy, but apply yourself. And if you apply yourself attitude right, then that ability comes through. Nuno went there and won. So that's how difficult and tough it is to go there. It won't be easy, but I expect us to go there and win for sure. But not because we're complacent and think it's just going to happen. You've got to go and make it happen. You've got to show that same discipline and determination and drive that we did at City, and then everything else will come through on top of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all said it. We've got to go with the same, mentality as City. We can't afford any drop-offs because I think we all feel, that result against City will mean absolutely nothing if we don't go to Burnley and take all 3 points. Which again, credit to Burnley, great win against Brighton. But you look at where Spurs are trying to go, and where Burnley are at the moment. Really, football shouldn't be played on paper because it's Tottenham. Got to be going here looking to get the win. Tal, coming over to you. I think Burnley's biggest issue this season has been the attack. They've scored just 20 goals so far in the league, so probably good job for them. They've got Spurs next. They failed to score in 3 of their last 5 league matches, and again, if that aspect can be sort of for them overall, they will improve as a club. Since in their last 5 matches they have kept 3 clean sheets, so it won't be easy. It won't be easy at all. I mean, I don't think they've got any concerns at the moment in terms of fitness. I know that obviously their new player Cornell, I think went off injured. Cornell, went off injured at the back end of the Brighton game. So maybe a doubt whether over he's fit. But Tal, what are you expecting out of this one?
I think it's going to be one of those games where we have loads of chances and the goals just make you frustrated because they don't necessarily go in all the time. But look, what the others have said are right. We should be winning. Burnley are 19th for a reason. And we are fighting for top 4. And that in itself should speak volumes in that we should have the passion, desire and skills to go to Burnley and win. And look, it's not an easy game. They're fighting for survival. I think Weghorst is a really big threat and he's so tall. And we're not great at set pieces in general and defending them. And I think that is a big, danger area. And I hope and I'm sure that in training they will focus on that because they know that that's what's coming. But ultimately, if Tottenham show up, it should be an easy-ish win. We are better than them and we should be able to go there and take the points. With that stat as well, you would expect us to win. But I am just, the slight pessimist in me is very much like Dr. Tottenham, we'll see you now. Often we win the big games and we struggle with the, no game's an easy game, but, the ones that on paper should technically be 3 points. So I hope that, look, we channel the confidence, take it there, and play good football and take the win.
Yep. Tal, let's stick with you. Following that pessimism, let's go for the first prediction as we look to close the show. What are you going for?
I will go 3-1. I think they'll
3-1 Spurs. There you go.
I think they'll win, but I'm hopeful. That's my optimistic opinion. Let's go next to Rob. Rob, what are you going for? It's a nice fixture for you up north, so hopefully not as far you would need to maybe travel. What are you going for, Rob?
Spurs win 2-1. Kane and Son.
There you go. Look at that. Kane and Son continuing their form. Jace, over to you. What are we going for?
I'm going for match postponed because the pitch is hard again. No
You are
heating,
joking.
mate.
You know
No,
that
he-
one
they-
pole
they're-
that's falling down in the storm. That one pole.
You know that wind we're having at the moment will blow the generator down, and there'll be no heating, and that's it. Match postponed. So that's my prediction.
Can we get it for
I'll go 2-1. I'll go 2-1.
2-1 Spurs? Okay, fine. Yeah, I'm going to join. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Spurs. Well, there you have it. Listen, we had what a great panel tonight. I think we had over 1,300, 1,400 of you watching us live at one point. So thank you so much for all of that. I say your interactions, your comments, your super chats. Right. Okay. Lovely to have Jace back on. Jace, thank you so much. Always a pleasure.
No problem, mate. 1 hour 54. Thank you.
No problem at all. Listen, we're trying to bring these down, but it's so bloody hard with Tottenham. They give us so much. Wonderful Talia, Coren, Tal. Where can we really find you?
Twitter, tweet me. That's
Yeah.
about it. As we know, I'm not a multi-channel kind of gal, but you can tweet me if you like, and I'll be back soon, I hope.
Oh, always. We have got you back on, I think, in a couple of weeks' time. Obviously, for Jason's reference, listen, Jason's hard-hitting opinions, they can be found, of course, there at THFC since 76, 17 major trophies, as he likes to point out on a regular basis, of course. Jason will always tell you that. Rob, to close the show with you, love having you on. Sorry, Rob, it's longer than obviously what you would normally go for. But we love obviously checking your content out as always. Rob, where can we find you? You do so much these days, obviously the Golden Guest podcast, covering Spurs, obviously live and in person. Where can we find, Rob, all your content?
Football London from my work. Twitter is at Rob Guesty, and then the Golden Guest Talk Tottenham podcast, what we'll hopefully be recording this week.
Amazing, Rob. I can tell you from the comments we've had tonight, there's many people very excited for that to drop, Rob. So, like I say, make sure you check that out. As I say, been a wonderful panel tonight. I've had the brilliant Rob Guesty, Jason McGovern, Talia, Coren. Guys, we are back with you on Wednesday evening for instant reaction to Tottenham Hotspur up at Turf Moor. We're hoping it'll be smiling faces like you've seen tonight. But from us all, from Rob, from Jason, from Talia, from me, guys, keep safe, keep well, and as always, come on, you Spurs.